Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from the last group and we will discuss about genre analysis presented by Firdausi Nuzula, Millati Africhu, Rozanah, and Nur Sibyani. Okay, in this occasion we will discuss about Unit 1 until Unit 4. In Unit 1, talk about meaning of genre analysis. Unit 2, talk about legal language. Unit 3, talk about English for journalism. And the last Unit 4, talk about English for science and technology. Okay, I'm going to talk about Unit 1, meaning of genre analysis. What is a genre? The word genre comes from French and originally from Latin meaning kind or class. According to Swallows 1990, a genre comprises a class of communicative events, the members of which share some set of communicative purpose. It means that genre is a recognizable communicative event in which language plays a significant role in terms of its dominance and frequency. Genre analysis in ESP. According to Swallows 1990, page 7, introduced the term genre analysis and related it to ESP, which consequently influenced both branches of ESP. He explained the term genre analysis as a system of analysis that is able to reveal something of the patterns of organization of a genre and the language used to express those patterns. Genre analysis, however, focused on the distinct regularities of structure of different text types. Genre analysis and material design seek to clarify rather than prescribe. Once learned and adequately understood, the convention and procedures can be exploited creatively to achieve private ends with the socially recognized communicative purpose from Bhatia 1993. The advantage of genre analysis in teaching and learning of specialist English or ESP is that learners do not learn language in isolation from specialist context. It also makes a relevant connection between the use of the language on one hand and the purpose of communication on the others. Okay, talk about steps in analyzing genre. There is introduction, audience and purpose question, rhetorical issues, ethos, pathos and logos, structure, style and language, and the last conclusion or synthesis. In conducting a genre analysis, one needs to be very careful when attributing a single set of communicative purpose to text, writers, or readers because of the complex nature of purpose of communicative event. Okay, about the conclusion. The conclusion in Unit 1 is one must acquaint oneself with the communication goal-oriented purpose associated with specific appropriate theoretical procedures and convention typically associated with the specialist discourse community that we are aspiring to join. The intent is to help learners to use language more effectively in academic and professional settings and to bring much needed physiological reality and relevance to the learning tasks. Okay, the next section will be explained by Firdausi Nuzula.
Okay, guys, the next explanation is about legal language. What is legal language? Legal English has traditionally been the preserve of lawyers from native speakers of English, especially the US, Canada, Australia, and the New Zealand, which have shared common law tradition. Modern legal language is based on standard English. However, it contains a number of unusual features that largely relate to the terminology, linguistic structure, linguistic convention, and punctuation, and have their roots in the history of the development of English as legal language. The next is about style of legal English. a stylistic influence upon English legal language. During the medieval period, lawyers used mixture of Latin, French, and English. To avoid ambiguity, lawyers often offered pairs of words from different languages. Sometimes there was little ambiguity to resolve, and the pairs merely gave greater emphasis, becoming a stylistic habit. This is a feature of legal style that continues to the present day. The next is about features of legal English. Legal language is a distinct language, easy to some extent to those familiar with it, but to others is often difficult. In other words, legal language is characterized by a specific language and therefore a specific terminology. Some of the features are, this is the feature of legal English. There are 15. The first is terms of Latin and French origin. Terms of Latin and French origin. One of many noticeable features of English legal action is the existence of Latinism, or Latin terms, in its terminology. Alcaraz and Bryan in 2002 linked the presence of such terms to certain reasons. We briefly consider them. In the first place, it was inevitable for English law to escape the influence of Latin, which was supported by the power of the Roman Church over Europe at that time, and also to its widespread use throughout this place of earth as a language of learning and literature. Here are some Latin phrases and words in common use. The first is bona fide, or it means that good faith or in a good faith. The next is res judicata, or it means that an issue adjected. The last is bes nova, or a new thing, an undecided question of law. Like Latinism, the existence of legal French terms within English legal language is also apparent. The next is about archaic diction of legal English. English lexicon is considerably made of archaic legal terms. However, this touch of archaism is not in vain. It is done on purpose. There are reasons behind this tendency. Legal English lexicon is considerably made of archaic, so it means that there are reasons behind this tendency towards archaic words. Archaisms give a flavor of formality to the language to which they belong. Some lawyers prefer to use antiquated terms instead of new ones. For example, they use imbibe as an alternative of drink, inquire rather than ask. The next is about archaic use of the modal shall in legal English. The modal shall pose a level of difficulty in both interpretation of clauses containing it and in the translation of such clauses. Shall is sometimes used in a way that is truly confusing and causes a dilemma for readers of legal documents to assume that definitively whether the modal shall is being used for obligation, futurity, or a false imperative. The next is about lexical repetition or redundancy. In legal writing, draftsmen avoid the use of anaphoric devices or referential pronouns. Actually, legal language is highly concerned with the exactness of reference and its tendency toward lexical repetition and therefore to functional redundancy. The fifth is about unusual use of the word the same, such, and said. Using such words in legal language is quite different from using them in ordinary one. The word the same usually implies comparison to similar object or person, but in legal use it refers to sameness of reference. The sixth is about frequent use of doubles. Actually, there is a common use of such collocation in which synonyms are near. Synonyms are combined in pair. Such word can be either nouns, verbs, adjective, or even preposition. Such construction must be treated with caution since sometimes the word used mean for practical purposes exactly the same thing, null and void, but sometimes they do not quite do so. Dispute, controversy, or claim. The next is about legal English as a technical language. A considerable part of legal English vocabulary is a mixture of archaic terms and terms of Latin and French origin. Another noticeable feature of legal English is its technical terminology. This reveals that a technical term is an unshared term used exclusively by a specific trade or profession. Alcara and Bryan 2002 present by a specific trade present a classification of technical terms and semi-technical terms. So that is defined into two. The first is purely technical term and the second is semi-technical term. Purely technical terms are those that are only applicable in the legal sphere but nowhere else. And the semi-technical term is words and phrases of this group belong to everyday lexicon which has gained extra meanings in the legal context. The next is about lack of punctuation. One aspect of archaic legal drafting, particularly in conveyances and deed, is the conspicuous absence of punctuation. In modern legal drafting, punctuation is used to give classification about meaning. The next is unusual word order. At times, the word order used in legal document appears distinctly strange. There is no single clear reason explaining this phenomenon, although the influence of French grammatical structure is certainly a contributing factor. The next is about use of unfamiliar proform. The use of such term in legal text is interesting since very frequently they do not replace the noun, which is the whole purpose of proform, but are used as adjectives to modify the noun. The noun. For example, he said John Smith. The 11th of the features of legal English is use of pronominal adverbs. Words like hereof, thereof, and whereof length, and whereof, and further derivatives, including at, in, after, before, with, by, above, on, upon, etc., are not often used in ordinary English. They are used in legal English primarily as a way of avoiding the repetition of names of things in the document itself. The 12 is ER, OR, and EE name endings. Legal English contains a large number of names and titles, such as employer and employee, or lessor and lessee, in which the reciprocal and opposite nature of the relationship is indicated by the use of alternative endings. This practice derives from Latin. The 13 of features of legal English is use of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs play a large role in legal English and are often used in a quasi-technical sense. For example, parties enter into contracts, put down deposits, serve or documentation upon other parties' right of debts, and so on. The next is about long complex sentence with intricate pattern of coordination and subordination. Even the prescriptive legal documents in English tend to use punctuation sparingly. Some earlier statutes were formulated as one sentence without any punctuation except for a final full stop. And the last features of legal English is a highly impersonal style of writing. Using passive form is one of the most common methods of emphasizing the impersonal in a language. So the next explanation will be explained by Yani.
Now I will explain Module 6, Unit 2 about English for Journalism. What is journalism? Journalism is the investigation and reporting of events, issues, and trends to a broad audience. Although there is much variation within journalism, the ideal is to inform the citizenry with state-governed organizations and institutions such as government and business. Journalism also covers cultural aspects of society such as art and entertainment. Journalism includes jobs such as editing, photojournalism, and electronic documentary or feature print. Journalism instructors claim that broadcast news writing report should sound like everyday speech and writing song lyrics because both tests involve contrasting language in a visual form writing for communication in an oral form speaking or singing. Like song lyrics, broadcast news writing adheres to pattern of language use such as appropriate vocabulary and formulae sentence until structure that the audience expects to hear and will use in interpreting the communication. It includes simple sentences and ways of writing other features such as headlines, leads, use of abbreviation, journalistic coinages, and others. And about headlines, function, and types, you can be a better reader if you know what to expect in a newspaper. For example, when you read a newspaper, you usually look quickly at the headlines first. Newspaper headlines have a language of their own and it is necessary to learn about it. They are function of headlines. Outlining the news or essence of the news, and beautifying the format on the newspaper page. To outlining the news, it is a newspaper usually has dozens of pages. It is unimaginable that a common reader should read the newspaper word by word from the very beginning to the end. Readers read the paper to the taste. The headlines are a guide for them. For headlines are the essence of the news to read. And to beautifying the format on the newspaper page. Beautifying the format of the newspaper page, headlines have to clarify news article respectively in the paper to make the page attractive for readers. And two types of headlines. Newspaper headlines can be classified into several types. They are straight headlines, headlines that ask a question, headlines that contain a quotation, double headlines, feature headlines. Straight headlines. Straight headlines give you the main topic of the story. They are the most common types of headline and are the easiest to understand. For example, INEX get parties not to shift polls till April. Ribadu, PDP will go. And two headlines that ask a question, report a future possibility or offer some doubt about the truth or accuracy of the story. For example, can technology fix ballot votes? And two headlines that contain a quotation. For example, which is important of which show that a statement is not proven. For example, Oni is to blame for exit rules. We won't quit. And the next, double headlines are two-part headlines for the same story and are often used for major events. For example, how Express broke diplomatic silence. And the next, future headlines are used for stories that are either highly unusual or amusing. Headlines for such stories try to be as clever as possible to catch the reader's interest. For example, did student fell under the crush during classes? And the next, about future of headlines. Before discussing the next material, please read the following headlines. There are Moscow official wounded by human. Earthquake rocks Turkey. Husband to survive. Boy on cliff rescued. Young Sudanese refugees endure famine. Separation from family. From the above, we can see two prominent features of English newspaper headlines. Their headlines are almost always in the present tense, and even future events are put in the present tense. And headlines generally omit unnecessary words, especially article and the verb to be, and is often replaced by a comma. And there are two types feature of headline: grammatical feature of headline and wording feature of the headlines. Grammatical feature of headline, they are omission. Omission of grammatical word or functional words such as article, conjunction of and, link verb of to be, and others. For example, Top Indian hotel angry at BBC. Instead of a top Indian hotel is angry at the BBC. And two tenses. The frequent tenses used in the headline are the simple present, the simple future, and the present progressive, whether it is of the past event, in order to add to its freshness and immediacy. For example, deposit once rising in HK and others. And two days I'm sorry and to punctuation there are comma dash colon. Comma often function as the conjunction end. For example, China, Japan seek more ways. And two dash is often functioned as quotes to identify the speaker or the source. For example, economists grow slowly as unemployment inflation rates economies. And two colon is often functioned as saying or the conjunction of link verb be. For example, bash US voice to combat terrorists. Chinese acrobat mastery of stunts. And two wording future of the headlines. Short and simple. Short, simple, and concise words are often applied in the headlines to create vividness and accuracy. For example, U.S. refused to back environment fund. Word is meet is speech talk. And below are some words used in journalism and their meanings. Word for your reference, verb, and word for your reference, nouns. Word for your reference, verb, about age, same with have, and word alter, same with the meaning change. Word ask, same the meaning inquire. And two words for your reference nouns. Word tone to noun refers to same decrease. And fate to celebration, flop failure, fake counterfeit, and others. And the next about initial or acronyms. Initial or acronyms. Another feature of journalistic English includes the use of initial and acronyms. We have different types and includes for organization and proper names. They are EEC, European Economic Community, UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and other. And for common things, they are ABM, EST, GMT, and others. And for professions, they are MP, PM, VIP, and others. Initial in the headlines may not be familiar to the readers. And initial or acronym also contain acronyms, shortened word or abbreviation. Example: graduate, hospital, billion, automobile, celeb and celebrity. And the next about journalistic choices. Journalistic choices are often made up of a phrase by saving some syllables in order to make a compound. For example, smoke, smoke fog, newscast, news broadcast, fruit, fruit juice, and others. And about the next about lead. There are two lead about lead. Yeah, they are the first function and characteristics of the lead, and second types and feature of the lead. The first function and characteristic of the lead. Lead distinguish news from other form of literature. Usually lead refers to the first paragraph or first few paragraphs includes the latest, most intriguing fact. It is either to summarize or to outline or to brief the news in order to lead the reader to the depth of the story. And they are such an informative, intriguing, such as being brief, simple, plain, and concise. Lead is usually of about 25 words or almost 35 words by one sentence. Informative. A lead should tell us of the essence of the news within the first word. And the next steps and feature of the lead. There are summary lead or roundup lead, main effect lead, descriptive lead, direct address lead or personal lead, quotation lead. These people try to loot and burn our city and we intend to make them pay for it, said Lang, the talking governor or Plateau State. And suspense lead. 2 weeks ago, the senator bought a stack of Guide's book to a Voodoo ranch, planning a cross-country trip. She and her husband were to begin today. Senator Van Key. Day later, she bought a coffin. And delay lead or multi-paragraph lead. Contrast lead. Question lead. How long could communication magnet resist the pull of the thread? Question lead. For example, how long could communication magnet resist the pull of the thread? And next, anecdotal lead, combined lead or multiple element lead, label lead or empathy lead. And conclusion. Journalistic English is up, simple, and catchy. The aim has always been to attract attention. The importance of journalism in modern society has been testified to by the establishment of school of journalism at most of the world's leading universities.
Okay, Unit 4 talk about English for Science and Technology. The first filters of English for Science and Technology. Now one at the grammatical level. There is punctuation. The punctuation can help the readers to have a better understanding of the sentence structures and the whole meanings the passages are going to convey. So the punctuation in EST are very beneficial to the readers when they are reading such text. And paragraphing. In EST, the sentences are quite long, and in each sentence, there are a lot of words. This is because this kind of style aims to describe the scientific fact, explain the scientific phenomena, and conclude the scientific conception. Number 2 is at the lexical level. There are use of long and big words. In EST passages, long words are quite frequently used, such as investigation, determination, assumption, and so on. These words are very suitable for the English for science and technology because they can express the meaning in a more accurate way. Number two, use of prepositional phrase. EST passages also have quite a lot of prepositional phrase, especially the preposition of. The prepositional phrase can make the sentence organized more closely and the structures understood easily. Number three, use of nominal words. Nominal words such as motion, investigation, and inspiration are used many times. Such kinds of words indicate the formality of the text and make much information combined together closely, coherently, and logically. The last, frequent use of technical terms. Technical terms are frequently used, among which are many words which come from words commonly used in the ordinary English style. However, in the domain of science and technology, they are used differently in meaning and have special meaning different from what we usually see and understand. Number three, at the syntactical or grammatical level. The first, frequent use of the passive voice. In EST passages, the passive voice are frequently used. Passive voice not only occurs quite frequently but also becomes one of the important devices to make text objective and standard. Number two, frequent use of declarative sentence. In frequent use and declarative sentence, clarity and fluency in expression are typical of the scientific English. Therefore, the declarative sentence have a high proportion in EST. The author of EST does not express his own feelings because EST tries to avoid subjective opinions or evaluation. Number three, frequent use of the present tense. The scientific disciplines and phenomena are not restricted by time. For this reason, the present tense appears almost throughout EST passages. The word will is used for judging or guessing but not for the future tenses. Number four, frequent use of long sentences. According to the statistic research conducted by Kian Yuan, the average simple sentence in all English styles include 17.8 words, but in most EST passages, the average word in each sentence is 24.4. This indicates that the sentence, like in EST, is longer by far than that in other types of English styles. Okay, the last, frequent use of complex sentence. The majority of the sentences found in EST passages are complex sentences. The sentences are usually long and complete. Okay, talk about contextual factor analysis. According to functional stylistic, contextual factors include the following aspects. The first, flight of discourse. Flight of discourse exert great influence of the vocabulary and sentence patterns of the language used. Further studies have discovered two aspects embedded in flight of discourse. One is the subject matters, the other is the nature of the activity. These two factors have great impact on the stylistic features. And about tenor of discourse. Tenor of discourse refers to the relation among the participants in a discourse. It chiefly concerns the degree of formality of the language is in use. The scientific professionals and the people in this field play an important role in the scientific activities or conferences. They use the ESP as the convenient media to convey the latest scientific information and exchange the scientific achievements with each other. And the last, about mode of discourse. Mode of discourse refer to the medium or mode of the language activity, and it is this that determine of whether correlates with the role played by the language activity in the situation. Therefore, any passage of ESP, the long and complex sentence, and the declarative sentence are used frequently to indicate clarity and accuracy in context and avoid the ambiguity in words of expression. Okay, the conclusion of this unit is ESP is to account, exchange, and communicate the scientific information as its main aim. So, as an information style, ESP is characterized by the accuracy and logic. It is a method of fact and justified of the feelings and best of the author. We must analyze its stylistic features deeply and in detail. Then we could make an effective achievement with little effort when we study or use the English for science and technology. Okay, that's all for our group. Thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.